Welcome to the deep dive. You're likely here because, well, you want to get to the heart of things, understand different viewpoints, but without getting totally bogged down.
Exactly. And that's what we're aiming for today.
Today, we're diving into something pretty personal, your early life, specifically growing up in New Jersey based on the memories you've shared.
Right. It's a collection of recollections, stories from childhood, adolescence.
Our mission, really, is to unpack these formative experiences, see what insights, maybe even some surprising connections pop out.
Yeah, look for the patterns, the moments that might have really, shaped things down the line.
Okay, let's start right at the beginning. Mitchell Street, West Orange. Can you paint a picture? You mentioned those summer nights, honeysuckle.
Oh, yeah. Warm nights, definitely the honeysuckle smell, neighborhood sounds, kids playing,
Yeah.
standard stuff for what, 1964? That's when I was born. My brother Mark, too, obviously.
And it wasn't just your immediate family, right? You said
Yeah.
your dad's family was all over that block.
Pretty much. Aunts, uncles, cousins. It felt like everyone was right there. Constant presence.
That sounds intense, but maybe comforting, too. A built-in community.
Yeah, definitely a strong sense of belonging, maybe. And it probably influenced how I felt later about, close groups. You also mentioned the down the hill versus up the hill thing.
Right, and only later realizing it was about socioeconomic differences.
Yeah, as a kid, you just see it as geography, right? But those little observations, they start building your understanding of, how the world's put together, even if you don't realize it then.
Absolutely. And speaking of exploring that world, you and Mark were quite the escape artists as toddlers.
Yeah, the gas station incident.
Getting out, wandering down there, playing in Greece, that takes some serious toddler determination.
I guess so. We just wanted to see what was going on.
And the owner just knew where you belonged and walked you back.
Yep. Different time, I suppose. Tighter community feel, maybe.
What was your mom's reaction to the Greece, though?
Oh, not pleased. Not pleased at all. That was probably the first big lesson in boundaries. Or maybe just don't play in Greece.
Okay, fast forward a bit. The mailbox incident, this feels like a big one.
Yeah.
Your mom's clear instructions, cross at the corner, safety first.
Very clear. She drilled it into us.
And then Mark just didn't. Decided to cross right in the middle of the street.
Yeah. Impulsive kid thing, I guess, but...
Then the sound of brakes, the collision, seeing him get hit.
It was, yeah. Vivid. The sound, seeing him sort of fly up a bit. Terrifying.
And the aftermath, him dazed, the driver frantic, the ambulance.
Right. And then later, sitting with Uncle Joe, he kind of talked us through it. About choices, consequences. How my choice was different from Mark's.
Wow. That's a heavy conversation for a kid. What do you think stuck with you from that?
A heightened sense of risk, maybe? That actions have real, immediate consequences, sometimes serious ones. And maybe a bit more caution in my own choices after that.
It sounds like it wasn't just that one time, though. Injuries seemed kind of common, both of you needing stitches often.
Oh, yeah. We were. Accident prone, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
Always getting banged up. Climbing trees, falling off bikes, the usual stuff, but maybe.
More often.
But Mark seemed to have the more serious stuff. Hit by a car again,
Yeah.
Broken arm, appendicitis.
Yeah. Blood poisoning from glass. They even tested him for bone cancer at one point, though that was negative, thankfully. He spent a lot of time in the hospital.
And you mentioned feeling jealous
Yeah.
of the attention he got.
It sounds bad saying it now, but yeah, as a kid, you see all that focus, the worry, the presence maybe. And yeah, there's definitely a part of me that felt left out, maybe a little envious. It's a weird kid logic,
Completely understandable, though. That shift in parental focus is huge for a sibling.
And then there was the BB gun incident. More recklessness.
Oh, what happened there?
Just messing around like idiots, honestly. And Mark got shot in the foot. Then the surgery to get the BB out was botched somehow. Just another thing.
Wow. Okay, let's shift gears a bit to something seemingly lighter. The Jersey Shore bungalow.
Ah, the shack. Yeah, good memories there, mostly. Bought when you were about 5. No heat, but lots of fun.
Totally. It was freedom. Late night drives down there, still in our pajamas, wrapped in blankets in the back seat.
Sounds cozy, actually. And the crabbing, biking to Whitey's for bait.
Loved it. Get up early, ride our bikes, get the bunker bait, smelly stuff.
Yeah.
And then spend literally all day on the dock, just pulling up crabs. Simple pleasures.
Building rafts, sailing on the lagoon near Barnegat Bay.
Yeah, trying to be Huck Finn, I guess. Cobbled together some wood scraps.
But then there was the incident falling off the dock before you could swim.
Right. That wasn't so idyllic. Just playing, slipped, went under. Remember seeing the bubbles, the green water, sinking.
Terrifying. until your dad pulled you out.
Yeah, he saved me. It definitely put a sharp edge on those carefree memories, a sudden reminder of how quickly things can go wrong, even when you're having fun.
And that contrast brings us to something much heavier, your father's alcoholism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was always there, under the surface, or sometimes right on the surface.
Like that weekend at the shore when he disappeared, left you and Mark and your mom with no food, no money.
Yeah, that was rough. We were kids. We eventually found him at this really dilapidated bar out in the marshes somewhere.
He wouldn't leave or give your mom money.
Nope. Just kept drinking. My mom, she was furious, but also incredibly strong. She just got us out of there, took us home.
You mentioned the feeling of not eating that whole weekend, that physical hunger.
It sticks with you, that kind of primal fear almost. Not knowing if you'll have basic needs met. It definitely left a mark. A feeling of insecurity, maybe?
But it also showed your mother's determination.
Absolutely. She protected us.
Then came the move, selling the bungalow to buy the house up the hill on Greenwood Avenue.
For better schools, right? Around second grade.
That was the reason, yeah. Better opportunities. I remember springtime on that street so clearly. The smells, the light, it felt different.
But it also meant less contact with the Mitchell Street family. Yeah, that sort of faded. Partly the distance, partly. My dad's relationships with some of them were strained, probably because of the drinking.
And you felt like the Beverly Hillbillies in this new, wealthier neighborhood.
Huh. Yeah, a bit. We were the blue-collar kids suddenly dropped into a different world. Didn't always feel like we fit in.
Which maybe explains the neighborhood skirmishes. Snowballs, rocks, crab apples.
Could be. Kid stuff, testing boundaries, figuring out the pecking order maybe, establishing ourselves in that new space, even if it was through crabapple warfare.
Your father being a cop must have added another layer to everything.
Definitely. It was a big part of his identity, and ours, I guess.
The summer cookouts with his cop buddies. Starting okay, then turning sour.
Yeah, once the drinking started. Which it always did. Lots of loud talk, sometimes arguments.
And his own drunk driving incidents. And other drunk cops at the house pulling guns. That's alarming.
It was. Really alarming. Seeing people who are supposed to uphold the law acting like that. Yeah. It messes with your head. Creates a sense of unpredictability, like the rules don't always apply.
And the story about him using your art project for target practice.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
That's dumb. Took something I made, something I was probably proud of, and just destroyed it. For fun. Felt like a real betrayal, a real lack of respect.
How did all that shape your view of authority?
Made it complicated. You see the badge, the uniform, but then you see the behavior behind it. It makes you question things, Less likely to just blindly trust authority figures, maybe.
But amidst that turbulence, there were your paternal grandparents.
Ah, yes. Grandma Helen and Grandpa. They were stability.
Weekly visits while your parents went out.
Yep, every week. Like clockwork. Grandma Helen was always impeccably dressed, wig perfectly in place, watching her shows, sometimes singing.
And your grandpa, the WWII Navy vet.
Quiet guy. Worked at a mattress factory after the war. Didn't have much education, but seemed content. Had a good sense of humor. Never complained.
And the routine. Breakfast at the same diner, visits to flower gardens.
That routine was everything.
Yeah.
So predictable, so calm. And yeah, those trips to the gardens. That's where I started really noticing flowers, appreciating them. Still do. It's funny how those little things stick.
That consistency must have been a lifeline.
It really was. An anchor. Especially as things got worse at home.
Because the conflict between your parents escalated, didn't it, once you were deemed old enough to be left alone?
Yeah. Around 9 or 10, I guess. The nights out turned into coming home drunk and fighting. Loudly.
Dreams turning into shouting, banging, things breaking.
Exactly. You'd be asleep and then suddenly crash.
Yeah.
Shouting. It was scary.
And your mom taking you to your grandparents in the middle of the night?
Sometimes. When it got really bad. When she was afraid, we'd just grab her stuff and go. And come back the next morning.
And see the damage. And you and Mark would try to fix things.
Yeah, like put a picture back together or try to glue something. Just trying to make it seem normal again, I guess. Putting way too much responsibility on ourselves.
What did witnessing all that teach you about relationships? About conflict?
Probably made me wary of conflict. Maybe too willing to avoid it sometimes.
Yeah.
But also maybe hyper-aware of emotional states. You learn to read the room really quickly when you grow up like that.
It got even more intense as teenagers, didn't it? You tried to intervene.
We did. You get bigger. You feel like you have to do something. Step in between them.
And the incident with your father. With the gun. Threatening suicide.
Yeah. That was the lowest point. Found him in the living room. Gun in his mouth.
And you and Mark talked him down.
Somehow. Yeah. Just kept talking to him, pleading with him. I don't even remember what we said, but eventually he put it down.
My gosh. That's incredibly traumatic for anyone, let alone teenagers. How did that change things?
It changed everything. Shattered any remaining illusions, I guess. Forced us to see the depth of his despair, the fragility of everything. You go up really fast in a moment like that.
Adding another layer to this complex picture of your dad, the story about his ethics as an officer, looting a tire store.
Yeah. He told us that story years later. Him and his partner, other cops too apparently, during some kind of unrest or blackout, just helped themselves.
Wow. So the guy meant to stop looting was looting.
Right. The dissonance is stark. How do you reconcile the protector with the perpetrator?
It makes the ambivalent feelings totally understandable. Respect, even idolization when you were young.
Yeah, because he's your dad, right? They're your only parents. You want to look up to them. And he could be incredibly charming, funny, when he was sober.
But that clashed with the reality. The drinking, the anger, the blue-collar struggles maybe.
All of it. And this idea you mentioned about conflict seekers.
Right. That some people are just drawn to, or maybe even create conflict.
It resonates, yeah. Looking back, it feels like there was always some drama brewing, some tension. Maybe it was a pattern he was stuck in. And we kids learn to just manage our emotions, keep things level to survive it. You become very controlled.
That need for control, or maybe lack of concern for risk, seems to pop up again with those boating trips.
Huh. Yeah, the boats. That was another saga.
Buying boats that weren't exactly seaworthy.
Understatement. Usually needed a ton of work. Engines were always iffy.
And heading way out into the Atlantic with hardly any navigation gear.
GPS. Ran. Maybe compass, if it worked. Just kind of pointed it east.
In all kinds of weather, even dense fog.
Oh, yeah. Fog was common. We'd just try to follow a charter boat back in, hope they knew where they were going. Got lost plenty of times.
Engine breakdowns seemed like a regular occurrence. Getting towed by the Coast Guard.
Yep. Knew those guys pretty well by the end. Always breaking down miles offshore, sometimes taking on water, thinking, uh-oh, this might be it.
And you just accepted this idea of learning through survival.
It seemed normal at the time. Maybe it was part of that same risk-taking pattern. Or just a belief that you figure things out as you go. Less planning, more reacting. Seems crazy looking back, honestly.
Which makes your mom's next chapter even more striking. Deciding to become a police officer herself.
Yeah, that was huge. A complete shift.
She'd had other jobs, but wanted a real career. This was around when you were 11.
Right. And then the local department opened the exams to women in the 70s. It was a new thing.
And your dad, surprisingly, encouraged her.
He did, which was unexpected, given, well, everything. But he seemed genuinely supportive of this. Maybe saw it as a way out for her, for the family.
And she threw herself into studying for the civil service exam.
Absolutely. Studied constantly. But the big hurdle was the physical fitness test. Same standards as then. No adjustments.
Right. And your dad helped her train, building an obstacle course, dragging you.
Yeah, he literally had her practice dragging my dead weight across the lawn, simulating rescuing someone, built a whole course in the backyard.
The 7-foot-4-inch wall. That sounds impossible.
It almost was. She practiced relentlessly, over and over, trying different techniques, just pure determination.
And she passed, outperforming a lot of the men.
She crushed it. Absolutely nailed the physical and the written tests. It was incredible to watch. Left a huge impression on me and Mark. Seeing that kind of grit, that focus.
What a contrast to your own experience with formal schooling around that time.
Oh, total contrast. School for me was rough.
Feeling trapped, bored, just daydreaming K through 12.
Pretty much. My mind was always somewhere else.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to do something significant, exceptional. But none of the subjects in school connected to that feeling. Nothing grabbed me.
Reading below grade level at 7, your grandmother, the special ed teacher, giving up.
Yeah. That tells you something, right? If grandma throws in the towel. Today, they'd probably say ADHD, but back then, I was just a bad student. Lazy, unmotivated.
But you squeaked by, on intelligence alone, without doing homework.
Basically, just enough to pass. My brother remembers Dad suggesting the welders union for us if we didn't shape up, says it scared him straight with his grades. I have zero memory of that conversation, interestingly.
And the high school principal begging you not to quit trigonometry?
Yeah, Mr. Ryan. He saw something, I guess. Some potential. But I just couldn't focus on cosines and tangents. Couldn't make myself do the work.
You quit the class anyway.
I did. Felt guilty about letting him down because he was genuinely trying to help. He was still supportive afterwards, though, which is kind of amazing.
So school wasn't the path. But then EMT work. That clicked.
Big time. It started with my brother volunteering for the local ambulance squad.
And your dad pulled some strings to get you hired at a paid service in Orange, a tougher town.
Yep. Threw us right into the deep end. Way more serious calls, shootings, stabbings, major medical emergencies. We saw a lot, learned a lot, fast.
And working as an EMT in Jersey City the summer after high school.
Yeah.
That felt meaningful.
It really did. For the first time, I felt like I was actually good at something important, making a difference, handling pressure. It just fit.
And that's what led to deciding to become a doctor.
Yeah. Seeing the doctors in the ER, understanding what they did, I realized that was the level I wanted to be at. Knew it was a long road, tons more school, but suddenly school had a purpose.
Which makes the college application mishap even funnier in hindsight.
Yeah. Oh, God. Applying to the University of Maryland.
Yeah.
Baltimore County, instead of College Park. Total accident. Didn't even realize until I got there.
Classic. And heading off to UMBC, hoping freshman year would be different.
Yeah, I thought, okay, new leaf. I have goal now.
But the old struggles resurfaced. Concentration, motivation.
Instantly. Sat in those big lecture halls, and my brain just checked out. Couldn't make myself study, didn't want to go to class. Same old patterns.
Feeling uncertain about even graduating, let alone getting into med school.
Totally adrift again. It was really discouraging. Like maybe the EMT thing was a fluke. Maybe I wasn't cut out for the long haul.
And then the right stuff.
Yeah. Tom Wolfe. Found that book somehow. Started reading it. And the voice, the way it was written, it was just electric. Different from anything I'd read.
You were looking up words, really engaging with it.
For the first time ever, really. Felt the power in the writing itself. And the story. The pilots, the test pilots, their attitude.
That right stuff mentality.
Yeah. Exactly. The coolness under pressure, the skill, the dedication, pushing the envelope. It just resonated so deeply. I identified with that spirit.
And suddenly a new goal emerged. Naval aviator.
Bam. Just like that. Forget doctor. I wanted to fly jets off carriers.
Even knowing the huge gap between being a struggling freshman and that.
The gap was massive. It seemed almost impossible. But for the first time, I had a clear picture, a life plan. It felt right. Like that was the thing I was supposed to do. All from reading a book.
Amazing how inspiration can strike like that. So looking back at this whole period we've discussed, several themes just keep coming up, don't they?
Definitely. Resilience is a big one. Just weathering all that instability, the chaos.
For sure. And the sheer impact of family dynamics, the good, the bad, the incredibly complex.
Yeah, how those relationships and experiences really mold you. And the whole journey of just trying to find your footing, find some direction.
Right. And how the catalysts for change can be so unexpected, like the EMT work or even just reading a specific book.
It's fascinating. The contrast between, say, the warmth and stability from the grandparents and the danger and fear sometimes at home, all happening concurrently. It's not simple.
No, not at all. And that complexity is really what we wanted to explore, getting those multiple angles you, our listener, appreciate, seeing how these early, sometimes difficult, sometimes wonderful, sometimes just plain weird experiences weave together.
It really shows that the path isn't linear. Challenges can forge strengths, and seemingly random events can set you on a completely new course.
Which brings us to a final thought, maybe something for you to ponder. Thinking about these early years, how do you personally see the connection between the specific challenges faced and the specific strengths, or maybe even the right stuff that emerged later on? What were those unexpected